Good evening, CM0102 Super League, and welcome to the CM0102 equivalent to the Oscars, the BAFTAs, the Grammys, all rolled into one. It is draft night. Shout out to everybody that is tuned in. Some great reaction to the hype video in the comments, and I am absolutely ecstatic to say that I have not one, not two, but three Super League legends to join me tonight. Shout out to all 20 of you in the viewership. Greavesy, Swanee, Fifey, Savage, Tato, Megahorse, Paul Taylor, Jens, the Assman, Champman Dan, great to have you back, and Premislav Plezatsky. Sorry if I've pronounced that wrong, mate. And also the Sloths boss is in the house. Gents, welcome to draft night. How we doing?
Great, excited.
I like all that.
Edwards, I'll come to you first, mate. It was only a week ago that we were sat here having streams, or just about to stream, game week 24 in season 14 of the previous iteration. Sorry for that buzzword, 2 minutes in, Dan. And if anyone ever asks you how long is a week in the Super League, the answer is not very long. We've seen a season burnt down. We've seen an investigative panel hold another former chairman to contempt, and here we are on draft night. How does it feel, Edwards?
Mixed emotions, mate. I mean, back end of last season, gutted because we were on a roll. We were looking good. We'd had put a couple of wins together. We're on the verge of sneaking at the back end of the top six, and no one wants to play us in the playoffs. But here we are. I didn't want a redraft, but now that we've got one, I am mega excited for it.
Class. Hopkins and Woda joining us into the chat, and also Martin talk about Super League pantheons of greatness. Martin's definitely up there. Dimble, my man, over to you next. You've kind of steered much of this redraft initiative and kind of building the new database in the background. How does it feel, mate?
Yeah, it's good to be involved in like the thick of redraft. Hopefully I do it proud. We've had some good ones in the past. Just want to do the same again. And in terms of what we should have at the end of the night, we should all have 28 players, which are fairly well balanced. There might be the odd little thing go awry, but it should be all right. And everyone will have at least some value to trade if they don't like the players. That's the aim.
Yeah, and I think you've got the absolute confidence of the league in terms of what you're doing. Last but by no means least, Wayo, Mourinho, how you doing? Yeah, and we're just frozen on his eyes closed. Tato, you there? Can you hear us, mate?
Hi, mate. Yeah, I'm sat in the garage that's being converted, so signal's not great. Yeah,
how you feeling,
buzzing, lads?
Yeah,
buzzing. Yeah, I'm hoping the draft is kind to me this year. I'm hoping to get some players I've not had before. And Dimble's done a quality job evening up the pots and stuff and balancing out. So everyone should have, like people have said, some chips to bargain with. And some players have not had. Bring it on.
Yeah, and may the odds be forever in your favour. May the draft wheel be kind to you all. Dimble, we're going to hand over to you just for a couple of moments. I'm just adding your screen to the screen. I'm not sure why it's not coming up. 2 seconds there, mate. And if you can talk us through kind of largely what the Dimble, if you just request permission, there we go. Happy days. If you can just talk us through kind of what the rationale with these pots. We're obviously going to end with tier 1 tonight, but I think tier 1 probably gives you the best demonstration of the kind of rationale behind the build of this. So talk us through it, mate.
Yeah, so the original idea was I was going to put 2 players in a pot at the top tier. So if you got a Sigalko, you would get a slightly lesser version, and they would all equal. Talking to Ian Edwards on Tuesday, we decided to add a striker into that for definite, because I think getting a striker could be an issue. So everyone will have a striker of decent value or ability. So yeah, it was a case of trying to balance out a bit. You've got a defensive player, you've got some kind of midfield or creative player, and you've got a striker at the end of the night, and they all should be similar values, maybe not completely equal. And then in the other pots, we've got same thing again, put it into tiers to make it easy to do, and then trying to divide the positions up as well. So we've all got a decent balance of players, and you won't be left completely short in loads of areas. You might have one position where you might need to go address that. But yeah, that's the idea, and ably helped by the likes of Tato and others in the committee as well. We kind of jigged it about a bit, and this is the end result.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we kind of move through the tiers, we're going to go in reverse order. So we'll end with kind of what we're calling the elite tier last. You're going to start with keepers and work gradually up through the quality of the players in here. And in order to do that, what we do also have is a little bit of pre-admin that we need to do that Dimble's going to take us through. We have a kind of tracking spreadsheet with all 14 clubs loaded in. And what we need to do is we need to determine who is being drawn in which order. So essentially, this first wheel will determine the order of clubs that are then drawn against the pots for the tiers that you're going to see. There will only be one order draw. So essentially, each club will have the order that they'll be drawn for all 5 tiers. Lads, best of luck. Edwards, do you want to be early or do you want to be later? What's your kind of thoughts?
I'm just rolling with the punches, mate. No superstitions.
Tato?
There's no stress.
Same here, not bothered. Midway.
Lovely. Dimble, do you want to get us underway?
Yeah, so this, just to clarify, this is going to determine who goes left to right in this spreadsheet. So it's just the order in which your pots will come out every time, and they'll be random after that. So let's go. Who's going to be first on the list?
I know we don't do it for the viewers, but we've got 27 viewers in at the minute. So if you are someone new to the community and you do want to give us a shout, then give us a shout. And it is the returning Chris Mack, who will have all possibilities open to him. When he draws, he will go number 1. Macca, who was here briefly pre-stream, but the hangover has got the best of him. And that is Duggan is 2 with Sancte Salutus coming 2 behind Macca. All bar 1 possibilities will be open to the Saints. Third team up is going to be, is it Burn, is it Badgers? It is Northern Burn. Nice and early for you there. Just briefly edging out the Badger boys. Interestingly, last rebuild, Dragons were a late number and we got a lot of quality. So there isn't really rhyme or reason. It is the boys from Kazakhstan. It is the Spartak slots who will be up in number 4. Greavesy back in the Super League for 3 minutes and says it's rigged already. Stackington Colliery, that is Dan Megahorse's team. An initial Season 1 build Super League team making their return in what will be Season 14 version 0.2. He will be 5th tonight.
Great to have Greavesy back, by the way, Hall of Fame.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of Greavesy, it's great timing. It is the Haggis Hunters, of which Greavesy is now a part of, which is an absolute, I can't even think of the right adjective to describe that. But he's back there, and we look forward to seeing how that works. There is Dudley Hill out at lucky number 7. Steve, who has a penchant for transfers. Dudley Hill returned to the Super League, having had 3 seasons away and being replaced by White Rose, former star winners, as their badge would indicate as well. Up number 8, it is the Badger boys. Wayo! It is Tato and his Badgers, who are just over 50% in terms of the order of the draw itself. Still haven't had Cosmos here tonight. So there can't be any real great conspiracy. There is Los Santos Kings, who are Hodge's new team, having followed on from Lettersford, Devils, Slots, and Casuals, who looked dead on for a playoff spot last build. There is Red Rose Stanley, Mike Savage, previously of Asta and previously of Tortuga Celtics, coming in at number 10 in the draw. We are getting towards the back end now. We have 4 teams that are left: Coast, Vikings, Exiles, and also it is Exiles. It's another one of the new teams that comes in at 11, Fifey late in the day there on the draw number. And we then have the Vikings, who make up number 12. Jens will probably be a little bit disappointed with that, to be honest. I think he's definitely one of those managers that wants to be an early hit. We do have the East Coast Cosmos, who have, unlucky for some, number 13. If there's a number that Edwards wanted to avoid, it would have been the number 13. And then, just to show there's no rigging in this, we do have CM Smuts and also Champman Dan's Bob Fossey Rhodes in as the last in the pot. Steve Wright saying that he's happened to be a mid-draw there, and Champman Dan saying he was late on in both draws there. And Macca saying slander the man, not the club. Tato, what's your initial reaction to you being drawn in number 8?
Yeah, middle of the road is fine. There's not any rhyme or reason to this, to be honest, mate. Is that, like I say, you were late on last year and you got the best squad by a mile. So, let's just see what happens. Quality.
Absolutely. Edwards, you managed to come out fairly early on, number 3. What's your kind of thoughts on that?
I mean, throughout my life, if I'd ever had a lucky number, it's number 3. So I'm reasonably happy. So
he's done it. He's jinxed it.
It's only downhill from here, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think we've got a good mix there of kind of returning clubs and new clubs that are scattered amongst it. Obviously, we do have a few managers tonight who are taking over new clubs for the first time. Just give them a quick shout out. So Smuts obviously has a solo seat at Fossey Road. Savage, this will be the first time that he is coming into a new build with his own club as well. Fifey returning. This is probably the first time in the Super League that he's kind of got a build that'll run like this, although when he was on previously it did. Stay Right trying to get into the comms, but I think he's 25 Magnus deep, and this like little 4 like vertical column along the outside works quite well. So and there is Asna Squared into the chat as well, coming all the way live and direct from Ireland, and he is obviously the AFCON 1 winner. Don't think he ever received his golden vuvuzela. But yeah, good evening to you, Asna, and we're nearly there. We have Stanley and Vikings making up those 13th and 14th positions. So, lads, shall we have a draft?
Yeah, I just need to. This is why I don't want to do this bit live. So I've got. Yeah, one sec. I'll just hide my screen a minute.
Yep.
So I'll just make sure it's in the right order because I don't want any controversy.
Yeah, so we've got 1 Fulchester, 2 is Sancte, 3 is Burn, 4 is Sloths, 5 is Stackington, 6 is Haggis, 7 is Dudley, 8 is Badgers, 9 is the Kings, 10 is Red Rose, 11 is Exiles, 12 is Vikings, 13 is Cosmos, and 14 is Fossey Road. Brilliant. That all looks good to me. Tato, in terms of tier 1 pots, while we just wait for Dimble to catch us up with a bit of admin there, in terms of tier 1 pots, what's the one you'd absolutely love? I seen you put a tweet out about 10 minutes before kickoff.
I had a look at the ones that I absolutely love, and to be honest, mate, I'm not bothered. There's loads of them, but there's one that I didn't particularly like was number 3 in tier 1. But I think there's so many good players. I'll take most of them.
Yeah. So we're ready to go. Colours are gone, but we're ready to go. This is the GK tier we're drawing now, and it's Fulchester up first. Is that correct?
You Fulchester up first. Which keeper do you want? Yeah, Edwards. Which keeper do you want? Are you going to jinx it or not?
Oh, give me Buffon, please.
Buffon. All right. Let's have a little spin for Chris Mack, and I shall try and get that up. Pot number 14, which is Costanzo, Lehman, Canizares, and Poom. That is probably one of the goalkeeper pots that requires just a little bit of time just to develop a little bit, I think. I'm not sure Mac will be too happy with that. We have the Saint Sancte coming up next. And we see what those boys who've been given at the big end over the weekend draw. Pot number 5, Oliver Kahn. Big draw straight out the block. Let me down at Dragons in the previous build, but we will absolutely take that. And Tato's fuming early doors. This is the Northern Burn boys, and they are going to draw.
Oh.
Pot number 4, which is Buffon. He asks and he receives Gianluigi Buffon, Stefan Kloss, Carini, and Quim. What a pot that is, and what a start that is for lucky number 3. Sloths next. We haven't got any Kazakhstanians. Elefantropoulos, who was very, very good for Vikings, but he's definitely one of those one of those keepers who is a little bit like Marmite in terms of the league, and you've got 50% of the league that rate him and 50% of the league that absolutely don't. So up next we've got Stackins and Coilery, Dan Megahorse, bringing his old club back. Pot number 6 is Sander Vesterveld, who was so good for Haggis over the previous season 12 and season 13. got to be happy with that draw. Any thoughts early doors, Tato?
No, I'm half and half into it. Some bad keepers gone and some quality ones. So
yeah,
this is Haggis.
The Haggis boys are getting Headman. That is definitely one of the weaker keeper pots, I think. Headman, Pelizzoli, Wright, and Majan. Yeah, they love him, Tato, do they? Have you got inside knowledge there?
Didn't they have Headman a couple of seasons ago and he was quality?
I don't think he likes him.
I think he likes him, yeah. I think it's slipping down.
Dudley next.
Yeah, this is Dudley Wright. Always sponsored by Magners. Pot number 10, it's Taibbi, who was so good for Greavesy. And also historically, I think he was good at Lettisford as well in the previous iteration, although one of you boys can correct me on that, I think. What's the matter, Tato, there?
I would literally take any of them but 7.
This is the Badger boys.
7 still in play for the Badgers. Tato,
so we know what's coming.
It's coming round. Pot number 2 is Toldo. Great pull, Tato. Toldo, Rab Douglas, Ruggiero, and Pleticosa. That is a solid draft. Greavesy immediately unhappy with his keeper pull. Mac straight away saying that he's on the search for a keeper. And we go next to the Los Santos Kings, who get pot number 3, which is Fabian Barthez. Definitely one of the standouts in this pull. Barthez, Runji, Esteban, and Yurtsi Dudek going to the Los Santos Kings. Love that concept, by the way, and I think it'd be great to see.
If he was asking any predictions before tonight, the one thing I would have said is that Hodger gets a very good draw. So he seems to fall on these.
He always does, doesn't he? What's that? Is that getting pot 11? Casillas is making his way to the Exiles, one of those keepers who Tato at the Badgers took a gamble on early doors from the Dragons, and probably say maybe a 60-40 split in the league.
In terms of what Stanley?
Sorry, that was Stanley. Beg your pardon. Yeah,
Stanley.
Yeah. It's going over to Red Rose Stanley. Savage will have Iker Casillas. Sorry, Dims. Now it's the Exiles. Yeah. Now it's the Exiles up, and we've got pot number 9 for the Exiles, which is Sebastian Frey. Was he a former Devil? He's a former Devil, isn't he? Sebastian Frey. Yeah, that's a good pull for Fifey in terms of having players that he previously. It's sad as fuck how we've got all this knowledge, isn't it? Absolutely sad as fuck. You're talking 2.5 years ago that we know he played for a club for a brief spell. 28 he was the Vikings. Who does he not want? Doesn't want David Day, does he? He doesn't want David Day. It's coming round. No, Vita Bayer. He will definitely not be a fan of that. But I would testify that he's a good keeper. Yeah, sorry, Fifey. Sorry, mate. I stitched you up a little bit there. East Coast Cosmos Dimble pulling his own player here.
Yeah, one I don't want and one I'm not that bothered about. So we'll see what happens.
You don't want 7, do you? Oh, he's got 7.
Ooh,
got 7. Dimble previously traded David Dye to Dragons as part of a Lee Boyer deal, who wasn't very good when he got to the Dragons. I think he played 2 5s on debut. These first 2 games, and then that leaves Fossey Road with the pot number 1, which is Chiotis. Definitely a kind of a Nicky Ferenko of the keeper variety, I feel. Brilliant. Edwards, haven't heard from you in about 5 minutes now. Any thoughts on that initial reaction to the goalkeeper pots?
Do you know, you accused me of jinxing it before we started. I took the pick that I wanted. I can testify to Chiotis being a great season 1 keeper in the Super League. Having done class for me last time out, so Foss Road will be well happy. It's the hardest part of the draft out of the way, because every other tier we've all got someone that we can get who's decent. On this one, it's 50-50. You get someone you're happy with or you don't.
Yeah. And Tato, any thoughts from you as I pull tier 4 up? Just have a little scout.
No, there's a lot of players, but I'm not too fussed about this one. There's one that I said I didn't want, but you're looking at squad players really, so not really any impact players.
Yeah. So tier 4 is essentially the outfield players or the poorest of players, and that rationale has kind of been arrived.
Oh, sorry, mate.
Yeah. Go on.
Sorry, Doug. I was just going to say, I think DMCs in this category, you can get some starting DMCs. That's probably about it if you're playing 2 or 3.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Any catch in your eye?
Battaglia. Lennon was
Yeah.
good for me towards the end. Guardiola could do it season 1 in Santos as well.
Yeah, I think Martin Keown as a pot 12 pull for a starting centre half season 1 is a really, really good pull. It was very, very good for Dragons. And we've also got some others in there. Casas, who Haggis will have an eye on in pot 4. Anything standing out for you in this, Dimble?
I'd just be looking for 1 or 2 players that can stick in my squad. And I think most pots have got that. I look at them. I think if you can pick 2 players out of this pot that you're going to use semi-regularly, I think you'd be happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Edwards, anything for you?
Not at this stage, no. You know me, I don't look at players or smaller players. I like the big names. I like the big players. I like the guys who are going to make a massive difference in the big 11. So I'd rather just see how I get and then deal with them when they arrive.
Yeah, no problem. And we're going to spin with Fulchester first up for tier number 4. Savage is disappointed that he didn't pull Barthez. Apparently the wheel was very, very, very close. And it's a pot 8 early doors for Maka. We've got Baldini, Valarimov, Makaleli, Solari, Parla, Conceição, Donovan and Ibrahimovic. It's only right that Ray Parla ends up back at Fulchester, given the controversy of the last save with apparently the best number 2 in the league. We go over to the Sancte boys. Who are they going to pull? They do pull pot number 6. Krosa, Jonsson, Derek Boateng, Balak, Overmars, Charisma, Tolly. Shane Tolly's in there, and Guy Hermé. Good pull there to have Ronnie Jonsson in there. I know my mate Wooder will be delighted that Ronnie Jonsson's been pulled out. Northern Burn are up next. As we see what they land with. And they get pot number 2, which is Babel, Hagen, Ramelow, Unia, Zanetti, Makoko, Boamorti, and Gustavo Lopez. That is a good little pull, Gustavo Lopez, in terms of that draw. Next, we're over to the Sloths, the boys in Kazakhstan, who are wanting pot number 4 or number 5. They just miss out on their wish. They get Yusval Garin, John Welsh, Paulinho Santos, Wellens, Reed, Binotto, Oliveira, and Carew. That is a great pot for me, I think. Definitely a couple of those players I would have. We go over to the Stackington boys now for their pull. Have we seen Mega Horse in the chat?
Oh, is that a family do?
And he gets pot number 7, which is George Costa, Simic, Dibiagio, Dulage, Phil Neville, who was scarily good for both Burn and Gazelles, Dalmat, Vlahovic, and Romeo. Tato, you like Vlahovic? That's a good pull for Horstat, I think.
Yeah, he loves Vlahovic as well. Decent pull, that.
Yeah, previous Bostock Stanley player. That is a good pot to pull. And it's pot 9 out. That is the Haggis pull. We have Radoy, who's a former Haggis man, funnily enough. We have Sishone, Lennon, Lampard, Simao, Vicente, Luis Enrique, and Defoe. I think that's a pretty solid pull for Haggis, given that they're probably going to play wingers. We know Ian likes wingers, and there's definitely 2 backup wingers in there. Over at the Dudley Hill boys, who put pull pot number 13, Kamuna, Vargas, Evan Nielsen, Pozzanzini, Gerard, Marquinhos, Ed Nielsen, and Nikolai. Marquinhos probably the standout there for Dudley Hill, given that Steve did try and start with him in season 3 of the last build in AMC, but didn't really do anything for him. We're over at the Badger boys now, who pulled pot 5. So pot 5 gets Jorovic, Curtis, Guardiola. I know he's a fan of Guardiola there, is Tato. Perez, who was good for the Celtics. Bruno, Chiesa, and Yardell. Tato, your immediate reaction to that?
Yeah, I'll take that one. Couple of usable players there. Certainly bench players. Yeah, good.
Over to the Las Santas Kings now. Starting to get to where these squads are starting to take shape, albeit at the bottom end. They do have Martin Keown, who I think is a great pull. Julian Lysans, Guigu, Albertini, Chadwick, Bergkamp, Petkovic, and Salva. I think that is definitely one of the stronger, one of the stronger pulls. Would I say you got a little cheeky pull for Kamuna there? You're delighted with Kamuna being pulled there, Tato?
Yeah, I might be on to Steve later.
Pot number 10 for the Red Rose, which features Juan, who ended up with Gazelles, Richard, Stewart, Placente, Sebashen, Madavikia, who was a starter on the right wing for Bostock Stanley last iteration, Cabello, who Tato loves, and also Felipe Maniero, who's getting on a little bit season 1, but does look good and does look solid stats-wise. Over at the Exiles, who pull pot number 4, Stefan Kufor, Bobo Balde, Battaglia in there, Castroman, Donati, Pablo Ducar, Gaston Casas, and Lewis Shaw. I think that looks fairly solid. I think Fifield definitely do a couple of those players, given that he's probably going to play the Devils 3 AMCs. Casas may just be one of those. Fifey saying he was after 12. Where are we at next? We're at the Vikings. Pot number 11, Patrick Anderson, Aber Xavier, Thomas Gravison, Dmitry Rovnyenko, who is a would I shout at Dragons and came on really strong for casuals, Kim Kallstrom, Champman legend, Alvaro Recoba, Johan Elmander, and Comandini. I think there's good value in there for Jens, if not starters, but definitely some good filler. Over to the East Coast Cosmos, pot number 14. We've got Marvin Andrews, who Dimble does have a little bit of a soft spot for, if I remember rightly, and Andre Uya as well. I think Dimble will be straight on to Hodgie about Andre Uya being involved in some filler-for-filler deals, along with Deisler, Sebastian Deisler, Bolavendo Zendin, Kaka, Franca, and Gibril Cisse. That leaves us with the Fossey Roads, who will be pulling pot number 1, Dimble?
Yeah, pot number 1.
Rocky Jr., Sebastian Kell, Galka, Coco, Scholl, Marcinio Kolioka, Antonio Casano, and Diego Klimovitz. Again, I think decent amounts of value in there. Edwards, any thoughts straight away?
Apart from Jens messaging behind the scenes if anyone's got a decent goalkeeper on the go.
Yeah, Jens is already doing his nut about that keeper situation as well, and I think so is Maka. Some positive comments from Hopkins there. Brilliant. Rovnyenko was unreal when he played for Hodgie. Yes, he was. Steve Fifey not happy with pot 4 at all. And that is pretty darn good. So this is where it starts to heat up a little bit. In tier 3, we have players who may not necessarily start, but players who can kind of go toe-to-toe if you get a little bit lucky with how they build in and how they load in, and if you get that run of form. You'll see there we've got, pot 6. We've got Mark Kerr and Julio Roca in pot 6 and 7. We've got players like Tony. We've got players like Antonio Reyes, Amoroso, Tristan. Anything standing out for you here, Dimble? I'm conscious you're doing the drawing, so haven't really came to you.
It's a similar situation to the last one. I'd be looking for 3 or 4 players I can use regularly. I think one with Stanic in it is probably my ideal one, just because I love Stanic. But yeah, I think all of them are pretty similar. I don't like Terry, but then you've got it's every part I look at, there's players I don't like, there's a couple I do like. So
yeah,
probably for me, probably pot 11 probably looks weakest to me. But I love these two. So
you touch upon pot 3 there. I think Paredes, Van der Vaart, Stanic, and Back could all arguably start in a Super League team if they were a little bit injury ravaged. I think that block of 4 across pot 3 looks very, very good. Tato, anything that's standing out for you here, mate?
Probably similar, but pot 11 does stand out for me as being quite poor because towards the back end of that, you've got a lot of myth players. Not really anyone that has stood up in the Super League, really. Seedorf apart, maybe.
Yeah, and that pot that you mentioned as well has got a fair few weak players as well, and we know how important strength is to being successful in the Super League. We go over to Fulchester's draw early doors, and they get pot number 1, which is Taribo West, Panucci, Prutton, Smerton, Serginho, Collins, Tony, and Roberts. If Maka wasn't feeling happy before tier number 3, he's got to be a happy man there. There's definitely at least 4 or 5 starters in there. Serginho probably the most of note, coming in and doing a hell of a job for the Vikings, playing DML and ML as well. Over to the Sanctier boys. Sanctier boys get pot number 9. Honshaw, Sands, Yanachetta, Tonetto, Rizicki, Donny, Smith, and Brozek. Happy with that in terms of forward options. We'll take that. Is that Tommy Smith or Alan Smith, just out of interest?
That is Alan, I believe.
Happy days, we'll take that. Northern Burn next, number 3 in the draw.
Yeah, I don't think Tommy Smith is in it. I'll double check that, but I'm 99% sure it's Alan.
Class, pure question out of self-interest, mate, and really probably shouldn't have asked it live. We've got the Northern Burn boys here, who are going to draw pot number 8, which is Wes Brown, Warnes, Mills, Lee Young Pure. Your boy comes back home, Edwards. Just turning out to be a really, really good draw for you tonight. YL Reyes, Zinedine Zidane, Henrik Larsson, and Louis Saha. That is a really good draw, I think, for you. LYP will be making you feel really good about that DML situation in that Burn Trident formation. We go over to the Spartak Sloths, and they pull pot number 11, which is that weaker pot. You'll be absolutely livid. We've got Argel, Bishkan, Takinari, Hart, Seedorf, D'Alessandro, Reyes, and Santa Cruz. A couple of players in there that we know Rob Sloth has either had either had live or has had in previous iterations. We go over now to the Stackington Colliery boys. Mega Horse, what's he going to want to pull? He's a man that will make it work, but he gets pot number 7. Chris Perry, Gareth Southgate, Joey Johnson, Steve Finnan, Mark Kerr, Lee Chun So, Olisa Davey, and Diego Tristan. That is a really shaping up to be a very, very solid side that for Stackington, even at the lower end of the tier pots, I think. Go over to the Haggis boys now as they get pulled. They do get pot number 2. Christian Shivu, Jonathan Woodgate, Juan Gomez going back to Haggis. What about that is? Bari Yakubu, Milan Petkov, Rivaldo, Nakata, and Salas. Salas going back to Haggis as well. That is a really, really good draw for the Haggis boys, I think, making up for their keeper woes. Over at the Dudley Hill boys next, they do get pot number 6, which is Gamara. Mourinho going back to... Yeah, he has. He was after him, wasn't he? We've got Mark Vivian Foy, Willie Sagnol, Julio Arca going back to stay right as well. Rui Costa, Jacques, and Elbert. I think that is one of the stronger pots of the draw, to be honest. We go over now to the Badger boys. Tato up next. Let's see what he gets. Looks as though 13's coming round, but it's 14 he gets. John Telly, Ashley Live. Ashley Live, isn't it great how there's all of these little sub-narrative plots that almost fate is just handing to us. Ashley Lides, Sean Davis, Stilian Petrov, Youngberg, Riquelme, Amoroso, and Vashiliuk. A very Haggis feel to that pot, to be fair. We've got the Las Santas Kings Knights, who get pot number 5. Milito, Odesi, Kaluzhny, Pawe, Simkoviak, getting the DMs, Hodgie, Guerrero, Kutuzov, and Inzaghi. That is a good pull, I think, for Hodgie. It's definitely a man that gets a decent tune out of AMCs, having done so previously with Hersey and Amor and the like, and Shevchenko as well, to be fair. Over to the Red Rose, we've got pot 12, and that is Materazzi, Lusenhoff, Medina, Liverani, Sorin, Nido, Shira, and Viduga. Some big boys to play up top for the Red Rose boys. Over now to Fifey's Exiles. Early shouts for a redraft already, and we're not even halfway through. Brilliant. Pot number 3 Fifey gets, which is Kufri, Novotny, Paredes, Van der Voort, Stanic, Batstuta, and Trezeguet. Definitely strong there in that AMC position. And also Rafael van der Voort. Even though Fifey doesn't necessarily historically play MCs, that'll definitely give him a question to ask about whether he cashes in on him or he pursues an MC. Likes to play Barry Ferguson in that diag position. We do have the Vikings next, who get pot number 10. Vrede, Helguera, Scally, Matty Holland in there, Alex Del Vecchio, Ronaldo going back to the Vikings, having done so well.
He's still known after that. You can't still known after that.
Yeah, I think he's got to be... I think he's going to be happy with that one, Dims. I totally agree. Over to the East Coast, Cosmos, 2 pots still in play, and it's going to be pot number 13. Mendes, is that Mendes de Silva, is it? Or is it Sebastian Mendes?
No, it's Sebastian Mendes, the centre back. I'm fairly happy with that, though.
Igor Tudor, Micheloni is pretty solid. Fiore, Guiardo, Dimble's a man that likes to play wingers, and there is one of the most versatile wingers in the game there on his site. Edwin Palermo and Fernando Torres, who makes up the numbers. Over to the Unicorn boys, who get pot number 4, Ugekiog, Vashchuk, Mendes de Silva, we've just mentioned him, Justin Walker, who I think Smuts will be pleased with there, Simak, Danielson, Hussein, and Mitaya Keshman. Maka is doing his nut already. Any thoughts, Edwards?
Yeah, I think out of the top 3, I think I got the 3rd best one. There was 2 that I wanted that I didn't get. I think there's 2 managers there who are going to be mega happy with the groups they draw, and one of us is probably on the live on stream with us now. And yeah, I've got my eye on one of the other ones, the other manager.
Brilliant. Mourinho, Tato. I don't know why I call you Mourinho, mate. It's a bit shit, that, isn't it? Tato. Yeah. We move over to tier number 2, and are you going to kind of put your balls to the wall and tell us which one he means, which one you want?
5.
5 for Tato. Edwards, are you going to stick your flag in the ground, or are you swerving it?
No, just bring it on.
Dimble?
My head's fried. I'm trying to click around too much, but
fair enough.
I want Ortega.
The best Ortega we've ever seen. I think 5 looks very, very good, and I also think 13 with Maldini, Elias, Lizarazu, Gerard, and Hershey looks really, really good in there as well. Fulchester up first, and they get pot number 10, which is Viali, Gattuso, Sally Hamitage, George Atos, and Ex de Berea. I'm not sure Maka's going to be too happy with that one. Doesn't really scream Macca players in there for me. Sancte now. We want 13 or 5. Dimble, if you could do us a favour, it'd be really, really good, mate. I very much appreciate it. What's coming round? Instead, we get pot number 1, is that? Who's that?
Yeah.
Montero, Soroczynski, Van Bronckhorst, Joe Golan, Brungink. We will take that. We will take that. Joey Cole. Happy days. We go next to Northern Burn, who had a good run in this yet. And will that turn, or will it keep the same, and will it build another team of Galacticos? They do get pot number 5. It continues. Pot number 5 there. TM Clompe, Decor, Cambiasso, Mike Dorf, who gives him a solid DMR option, probably one of the best in the save there in that Burn Trident, and Ariel Ortega. The Burn boss is going to be bullying in transfers again. We go over to the slots. And they get number 4, Lasisi, Ado, Van Bommel, Candea, and Louis Figo. Candea, who was due to go back to PPP manager. I think he did get there before the save shut down. We go over to Stackington Colliery now, who are going to look to build on some of that filler that they had. That was a very, very good quality. We go over to pot 11, which is Sammy Hupia, Patatoglu, Ashley Cole, Scholes, and Fernando Morientes, who finished the draw and finished the season on an absolute high with the casuals and look to be challenging for that top boot spot outside of the bracket of Christian Vieri. We go over to the Haggis boys. What will they be after? They get pot number 3, is that? Pot number 3, which is Lawson, Silvestri, Ambrosini, Wilfred Bauma, and Agahawa. Depending on how those boys load in at that save, it's either a very, very good or a very, very bad draw. That, you know, Bauma and Agahawa can be a little bit temperamental in terms of how they load in on day 1. Over at the Dudley Hill boys, they do get pot number 14, Ayala, Neville, Dede, Emerson, and Robbie Keane. That looks really, really solid and gives Steve an absolutely quality MC and DML option. Not too sure on Ayala, but Gary Neville has definitely shown that he can do a job for the league. Over at the Badger boys now, live reaction from Tato. There's pot number 2. Iluniano, Desai, Milevski, Contra, and Tomadira. Contra probably the standout there for your Tato, but a few red card liabilities in there.
Yeah, it's rubbish, that one.
Over to the Los Santos Kings, who are draw number 9. And let's see if Hodgie can add to those previous good draws that he's had. He gets pot 6, just hangs on to pot number 6, which is Ferdinand, Saeed, Volodenkov, Didier Agat, and Raul. That looks, again, very, very good. Hodgie always seems to come out on top on these drafts, and that's a quality draw for him, I think. Over to the Red Rose boys, and we'll see what they come out with. Pot number 8, which is Okaronko, Diego Simeone, Zanoni, Roberto Carlos, and Roy Mackay. For me, personal opinion, that's one of the weaker ones, bar Carlos, but we'll see what Savage and the boys can do over there with the ass man. Over at the Exiles now, I think Fifey will probably be hoping for pot number 13. A couple of players in there that we know he likes. It does come round, and that is going to edge into pot 7. Just hang on to pot number 7. Yepes, Rustico, Vogel, Zambrotta, and Nicky Ferengo. Interested to hear Fifey's thoughts on Nicky Ferengo, whether he's myth or magic. Savage absolutely fuming. Sorry, I'm not doing the draw, mate. It's Dimble. Pot number 12 for the Vikings, which is Lucio, Cordoba, Zauri, Beckham, and Owen. Be interesting to see what Jens does in terms of MR or DMR. And you think if he pursues DMR, then Beckham has got to be on the chopping block early doors. Maybe to Chris Mack. Over at the East Coast Cosmos boys, he's going to hang on to a really strong pot there. Maldini, Zielius, Lizarazu, Gerard, and Hersey. Dimble, you've got to be happy with that.
Yes, Lizarazu is available. Yeah, me.
For Van Nistelrooy and whatever else.
Yeah.
And that leaves Smuts with pot number 9, which is Kevin Hoffland, Manu Petit, Pavel Nedved, Brett Emerton, Del Piero. Yeah, I think he will. I think there's a couple of players that he absolutely likes in there. He was definitely coming after me for Del Piero at the back end of last save as well. Right then, boys, shall we just take a breath? Because we're just about to go into the Hollywood pot. And shall we, I mean, it's a lot to take in. It's a lot of text to kind of process there. Edwards, I think the consensus is you've came out of that well. But other than yourself, is there any kind of squads jumping out at you that you think feel particularly strong at the first look?
Wow. There's a lot of names there, isn't there? And I have been focusing on my own team. I heard you say there that you thought Savage might have been a bit not very happy, but I think his last group is class. I think he's got something to work with. Foss Road's last group was class. I think there's a team in there. Can't get away from the fact that I think I'm happy with mine. But then again, as it's gone on tonight, I think yours has got a lot stronger as well. It's hard to digest at this point because we are focusing
absolutely. So let's roll over to tier 1 then. This is what we're here for. Let's be honest, lads. Nobody's here for any of the other tiers other than this. Dimble, if I can ask you in one word, where is Sigalko ending up?
I predict Hodgie, Los Santos.
Los Santos. Tato, where's Sigalko ending up?
I'm going to say Stackington.
Nice. Edwards? Where do you think? Burn? Yeah? I think he'll end up at Fifey. I think he'll end up at the Exiles. Right then. Shall we do it then?
Let's go for it. So this is full chest up first.
This is full Chester up first. These are the heavyweights. These are the ones that can win you a Super League star. Pot number 1, 5, 11, 12, and 13. 8 comes round, and that is Crespo, Cannavaro, and Robin. Crespo, Cannavaro, and Robin. Interesting to see whether Maka thinks that's a good draw. We've got the Sanctier boys up next. My team. Let's see what we can have. Let's have pot number 1 just for the crack. Pot number 9, Vieri and Dye and Kuhl. I think that's a bit of a poor pot, to be honest, lad. But really? we'll take that. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Christian Vieri was always going to be the case, wasn't it? We go to the Burn boys next. Will Sigalko be coming home? Will Sigalko be coming home? He is. Oh, he was so close. Pot number 2, Montella, Turan, and Javier Zanetti. I think again is scary good.
He's got Montella.
Yeah.
That is the group I wanted, I'll be honest with you. I wanted group number 2. That was my choice.
How good was Rob Sloth with Maxim, by the way?
Sloth, 13. Let's see what he's got there. He's got Rossini, Nicky Butt, and Ronaldinho. Great stuff. I am all for the madness of Ronaldinho at Rob Sloth. Happy days. We have Stackington now. Tato predicted that he was going to end up with Maxim. Who is he going to end up with? Pot number 1's coming around, but it will be that really strong pot number 5 with Impenza, Davids, and Dyer. What a draw that is for the Stackington Colliery boys. It just gets better and better as the night goes on for the boys from the colliery. We go over to Haggis now. Let's have a little look what they're going to end up with. They could turn their entire draw around. They just miss out on pot 1 and they hang on to pot number 14, which is Michalis Constantinou, Walter Samwell, and Totti. Samwell going back to the Haggis boys, haven't been there previously, I think. We go over now to the Dudley boys. Will he end up with Maxim? Who's going to be the winner of the Maxim lottery? Here comes pot number 1. It's pot number 3. Ruud van Nistelrooy, Kaladze, and Boyer. Knowing how Steve plays the game, knowing how he sets up, we know that he's probably going to like that. The Badger boys have got everything crossed here for a number 1 draw. A number 1 draw here for the Badger boys is what he's after. Luxdorf went too far. Pot number 4, Clive Keane, and Giggs. Giggs is a really good pull for Tato. Really good pull. And I know that having had conversations with him previously in other chats, but that kind of forces his hand a little bit with the tactic he's going to play, and he's a big fan of wingers. We go over to the Los Santos. Is that Robbie or Roy?
Roy.
Yeah, we love him. We go over to the Los Santos Kings, who get point number 10. Shevchenko, Tomati, and Aymar. Shevchenko and Aymar reuniting with their former manager at the Casuals. That looks scarily strong from Hodgie. It's mad how these things pan out. We go over now to the Red Rose boys. The Red Rose boys, Savage, definitely one of the managers that isn't happy with his draw so far. Can he turn it around? Here comes pot number 1. And he hangs on to pot number 6, Pizarro, Yeremis, and Mendieta. Pot 1 still in play. Dimble, how are you feeling?
I don't know what else is still available, so let's just take a breather. 1, 7, 12, and 11. 1.
So 1 Sigalko, Campbell, Cafu.
I don't really like the others, so yeah, 1 would be my favourite probably now. I don't know.
Yeah, so just for people that are watching, pot 1 includes Sigalko, Campbell, and Cafu. Pot number 7 includes Anelka, Stam, and Barry Ferguson. Pot number 12 that was still left? Saviola, Nesta, and Veron. And then the last one remaining there is pot number 6, which is no, it isn't. Not a pot number 6. Number 12, which is Saviola, Nesta, and Veron. Up next, we've got the Exiles. So it's Fifey's draw here. Fifey saying in the chat that he wants 1 or 12. Here comes number 1. He's went past it, and it goes to pot number 12. He does get his answer with Saviola, Nesta, and Veron, 2 big players in there alongside Saviola. We've got the Vikings. Did they end up with Maxim? Of course, Jens had Maxim at the start of the iteration ago. He's going to have Sigalko. Sigalko is going to be a Viking. Sigalko is a Viking. Nobody called it. Does that turn around Jens's feel of his draw early on? We've got 7, and we've got what was the other number there? 7 and 6, was that, Dimble?
11.
No, 7 and 12. 7 and 11. 7 and 11. So we've got Henri, Vieira, and Ziriberto left in 11, or we've got number 7, which is Anelka, Stam, and Ferguson. It is number 7. Nicholas Anelka, of all the places he could end up with, goes back to the manager that had to probably get the best out of him, but it took him everything he had. Nicholas Anelka goes back to the Cosmos.
So much emotional investment in Nicholas Anelka. I don't think I can handle it. I don't want him.
Yeah, I think he's the 3rd person in your relationship, mate, to be honest. And then pot number 11, which concludes our draw, which gives Smuts a big draw of Thierry Henry, Patrick Vieira, and Ziriberto. And that, lads, in very good time, takes us to the conclusion of the draw. Any initial thoughts from you, Edwards?
Yeah, I've got Javier Zanetti and Mike Duff. So if anyone needs a right wing back, come and give us a shout with something good. Other than that, that's the best draw I've ever had in all the time I've been involved in the league. So very happy. Not even really looking at anyone else's team, because I'm going to try and figure out all these names that have been thrown at me and where my strengths, where my weaknesses are, and what I can shed and what I'm keeping. I thought I got Cafu as well, but I obviously didn't I? I wrote him down.
Tito, any thoughts?
I've done really well in certain areas, but I'm very weak in one particular area. I'm really weak in an area.
Do you want to haul your wares here and kind of come out with it, or are you keeping your powder dry?
I'll keep it. I mean, it's pretty obvious where I'm weak, but the likes of Milevski, Roy Keane, probably Riquelme, they're all for sale. So get in touch.
Yeah. Can I just say that a whole club based around the idea of salvation and redemption has the player at it that brought this whole thing down last time. So Vieri ending up at the place who spun a club on salvation is great. Dimble, what's your kind of thoughts?
It was very hard to digest it. It's a lot of names. I was obviously concentrating on what I was doing, so I can see that Maka isn't happy, which is shit, but I suppose it's the look of the draw. Mine, I've got some good players, but I've also got a lot of shit. So I think I'll have to do some work to get a balanced team the way I want it. But yeah, happy. It's looking great to be back in it.
Yeah, it is great to be back indeed, and I really enjoyed that. I didn't take much of it in, but I really enjoyed that, lads. Jens is saying he's done his first deal. He's never done his first deal 2.5 minutes after the draft show.
I just turned out an absolute shocker. I'm not even going to tell you it was from.
Go on.
No,
out them.
That's not my style, but it was a shocker.
Okay.
He knows it's a shocker. And he knows he's going to end up under Askham Beach if he's not careful.
Beckham has gone. Beckham gone to Macca straight away. Is that the first deal? So I suppose at at that bombshell, it gives us great pleasure to announce that the transfer window is open. You have 4 maximum deals with each club. You have a maximum of 28 deals, given that players can only move once in this window. And that window will shut on the submission of draft picks, which is the 20th of August. After game week 1, the window will reopen, but bear in mind that players can only move to one further club and must have made one further appearance for the club that they're at on game week 1. To the managers out there and the assistants, we are going to drop the, we're going to probably set up a Zoom, lads. Do you reckon is that a little bit better for more people? Because I think we're limited to 10. So, Edwards, if you would do the honours and set up a first Zoom, if you wouldn't mind, is that all right?
Of course it is, mate.
Dimble is probably going to export this as a PDF and drop it into the no reply chat as a PDF or as a PNG. Is that all right, mate?
Yeah, no worries.
And boys, thank you so much for your company tonight, and the Super League is alive and well. Any last thoughts, Dims?
No, it's great to be back. Thanks, boys, for contributing, joining in, and Duggan. Those comments were fucking unreal there, by the way. That was some high tempo shit that you was coming out your mouth there. That was good.
Tato, any thoughts, mate?
Yeah, quality. There's business to be done, so let's switch over.
There is business to be done. And on that note, I know Edwards will absolutely agree with that. If you've been new and you've dropped in tonight, please hang around, get a Twitter account set up at CM0102 SL, pick a team, try and get involved as an assistant. We are not a closed shop. We don't do this for hundreds of viewers. We do this because it's a weird little corner of the internet where we can all have a little bit of sanity from the mundanity of everyday life. You're more than welcome with us. Get involved, up the fucking Super League, and there is business to be done.